Hello, welcome to R&B Reviews. I'm Rob.
I'm Brendan.
We're your usual hosts, and today we're going to look at the film The Hurt Locker. Now, this movie is about a group of soldiers in Iraq, and basically whenever there's a potential bomb that's left behind, this group goes out and has a look and tries to disarm it. This movie I thought was definitely a very interesting sort of movie. It's shot almost like in a documentary style, and it's definitely, what I really liked about it right away was the acting. I mean, even though these aren't played by, A-list stars, they're character actors from movies and TV, I felt they were very believable. From the way they walked right to the way they talked, and their personalities came out real well in this movie.
It seems like for a war movie, they traded the ultra violence and graphic gore that usually goes with the war movie for just realistic characters.
Yeah.
It was about time to have people who were funny and yet still human, and they cared about stuff. They weren't one-sided, and they just weren't like hell-bent on killing, or there wasn't like a funny nerdy guy in the group. There wasn't like one guy who was completely crazy. They all had their own individual characteristics, but they all felt very real.
Yeah, and it's like you're spending time with this troop as they were doing this stuff. What I really liked about it was, the suspense, and plus another thing that I also liked about it was it wasn't trying to give a message of the war was right or the war was wrong. It just showed what's going on. Although I'm sure there's some scenes where someone will look at it and they'll see something from their side to back their view up. But overall, they just didn't say the war is wrong.
It wasn't trying to ram a view down your throat, and that's why they just told a simple action war story without getting any of the politics involved. And that's what a lot of these Middle East movies, the movies taking place in the Middle East, do, is they try to throw a political message in there, and then it just doesn't work. And this movie was
too preachy sometimes.
Yeah, it comes off as way too preachy. And this movie didn't have that because, like you mentioned, the suspense. The suspense in this movie is unbelievable. Like
more than in a Hitchcock picture, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Like in the first 30, 40 minutes, I think that whole chunk was almost like pure suspense. It was like every scene they were defusing a bomb, or when they get into a fight with some snipers up on a hilltop.
Yeah, they kind of do that in order to give you a feeling of what the soldiers might be going through when they're doing their job over there.
Yeah, it definitely did have a lot of the way it was shot. Definitely give you it more from the perspective of the soldiers, as well as from sort of some onlookers. So you always kind of felt you had the same paranoia they did. To the bystanders who were just sort of standing around watching.
Yeah, because you don't know if one of the bystanders is going to,
Exactly,
anywhere.
and it's like that. It's that easy.
Yeah, and getting back to the way it was shot. Now I know they were trying to shoot it in like a documentary style, but I thought the whole shaky cam thing drove me nuts. There was one point where I thought I was going to get motion sickness. I thought they were really, really overdoing it with the camera style.
It really didn't bother me. I never really noticed it, and maybe I'm just a little more used to it because they do that in a lot of movies these days. But I didn't feel like they overkilled the shaky cam. They used it in necessary situations, and I don't feel like they were trying to ram it down your throat or try to boost up the adrenaline by shaking the camera around.
Yeah, but I mean, I wasn't quite nuts about it, but at least with the group, at least each of the three main leads, there's a different personality. Like there's a Sergeant Sanborn, who's like the leader, and he's very serious. And then there's the guy that actually takes the bombs apart. His name is Bomb Specialist James. He's cocky and he's arrogant. And then finally there's Aldrich, and he's very obsessed with death because some of his fellow soldiers, close friends, have been killed, and he's starting to lose it a little bit. So I like that you got to differentiate the different soldiers, and they got something different.
And Specialist James is, I think, by far the most interesting character, with his sort of addiction to the adrenaline and how reckless he was with his job, and yet that was his love, was to defuse bombs.
Yeah. And I love the character development in it. I mean, there's a couple times you get, like, after one of the defusing the bomb scenes, like I think the biggest one in the movie with the car, they go off and then they kind of celebrate, and you kind of really get to know the characters, and there is a scene where you get to know a character even more later in the movie. So I really like that I got to sit down and get to know the character rather than just see them do their work. You get to know a little bit about if they got a family, why don't they, and that really, I thought, really brought some more to this movie. Because sometimes with war films, you don't get to know too many of the characters' personalities, but here you do, and I like that
And they
a
usually
lot.
can't contain it to just one scene and give you the personality. This movie did it very simply and subtly. The only issue is I think the pacing in the movie was a little off at times. because it kind of felt like we had a lot of suspenseful action scenes, and they went into like a brief character scene, and it kind of went back and forth like that for a little while.
I disagree with you. I think the pacing was fine. You know, my issue with it was just the too many motion cam with it, because I thought that just got a little nauseating, especially when they really got in your face at times. Well, not your face, in the characters' faces. I think that sometimes it.
Well, I did like that they drew out some of the longer action and suspense scenes to really have you sort of be there with the soldiers and see, like, you know, they don't resolve these problems in like a couple gunshots.
Yeah, definitely. And I was really glad to finally see it, because it came out in June 26th in like New York and LA, and it's slowly been expanding into more theaters in the cities, and finally it came to us in the small towns, and I was really thrilled that finally it's been expanding all over the country. So I hope if it's playing near the people that are watching this video, I hope they take the time to go out and consider looking at this movie, because who knows how long it'll be there, because I was a little surprised that it came to our theater, because we usually don't get independent films. And two theories of why I guess it came here is maybe perhaps the theater had extra screening room. They're like, what can we fill? Let's fill it with an independent movie. Or perhaps, I don't know, another theory that I had was perhaps they figure, you know, they'll make some, you know, the theater, you know, they'll make some money off of it, and then eventually when when a bigger movie that needs a lot of screening come along, they can just yank it. So that's why I would tell somebody, go see it now, because you don't know how long it's going to be there. It could be gone next week.
It's definitely one of the best war films in years. I mean, maybe one of the best ones since Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
Just because it definitely relates to our times. You know, it's the Iraq War, and you know they do it. You know, the movie's just perfectly done.
Yeah, not really too Hollywood studio-ish, you know, where they throw a preaching message down. The war was wrong, the war was right. You know, you get a story about a group of bomb specialists disabling bombs during the war in Iraq, and I thought that was definitely a breath of fresh air for me. So I would definitely tell somebody, if it's playing near you, see it. If not, I hope you consider renting it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth watching when it comes out on DVD for sure. I say see it.
Yeah, and my only warning is, you know, if you're not used to motion cam, maybe don't go after you've had a big meal, or don't get anything from the concession stand. And there's also a scene involving a bomb and a dead body that might seem squeamish to some people.
Yeah, that was definitely a gross scene, you know, and especially since the film doesn't really boast a lot of gory guts and stuff, but the scene had some extra weight to it.
Yeah, so that's definitely that. We both think you should see it. If it's playing near you, I guess we're trying to say go ahead and go see it, and if not, maybe consider renting it on DVD. So, alright, thank you for watching. If you want to leave any comments or feedback, perhaps you've seen the movie and you liked it, or you didn't like it, go ahead and tell us your thoughts. And we'll see you on the next edition of R&B Reviews.